Hey guys, I made my way back down to Los Angeles for Summer Game Fest 2023, and it is a pretty busy house here, much busier than last year, with a lot more games for us to get our hands on, a lot bigger AAA types of experiences like Mortal Kombat 1, which I think in terms of just sheer fun was probably the standout for me. It is such an accessible fighting experience. We got a chance to try out 4 different fighters with 3 different cameo fighters, all with unique abilities, a couple of different background environments. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the great thing is I also got a chance to speak with Ed Boon. Why go back to 1? Or is it like a fresh reboot we're starting over with you guys?
Certainly with the story we are starting over. We've had an 11-game arc of Liu Kang's ascension from simple Shaolin monk to basically fire god, a titan. And he reached the point where we were kind of like, I don't think we can introduce yet a higher villain to be in the game. So our big picture decision was we're going to have Liu Kang be the all-powerful, create his own Big Bang event, and then we're basically starting almost like a Garden of Eden type of setting.
Yeah.
And it is Liu Kang's attempt at making this perfect, peaceful, tranquil world, but then these characters that everybody knows, their stories are being retold, right from the very beginning. So we're going to see familiar characters being reintroduced with new roles, new relationships, new conflicts, and everything. That's going to be so fun, the story mode that we're going to be presenting.
Another beautiful AAA experience that we got a nice demo for was Alan Wake 2. This is a game that's going to introduce another character for us to play as in addition to Alan Wake. And we're going to be able to bounce between 2 campaigns that are running in parallel. And it looks incredibly beautiful, which is something that we can count on Remedy to always deliver with their video games. But it also looks incredibly psychologically damaging, which I think we could also expect out of an Alan Wake experience. I think that is going to be a massive success come this Halloween. And what's cool is that there are, of course, lots of connections to any longtime Remedy game fans. They've got a whole connected universe across their games. And I think Alan Wake 2 is going to be kind of the icing on a long in development cake. It's been 13 years since the original game. The new game explains that and dives right into that length of time that we've been waiting for this sequel. But I absolutely think it's going to be worth the wait. Another big title that really impressed me that's headed our way is Immortals of Avalon. This is by Ascendant Studios. EA is publishing this game under their EA Originals brand. That's underlined. This is a completely different concept with magic users that have all kinds of awesome abilities and spells that they can cast, but it's a fast-paced game. It's almost like fast fantasy. It's a take on kind of like Call of Duty style gameplay where you're battling hordes and hordes of enemies. It's almost like a theme park type of experience with lots of really beautiful effects. Very accessible, very cool dragon boss that I got to fight and get killed by, and I had so much fun playing it. I can't wait to review it. I just hope it all comes together. It's an Unreal 5 game, so it's taking advantage of some brand new technology, and you can see it. They spent some real money on it. The studio is not small. It's made by a bunch of developers that have a lot of experience from AAA titles like Call of Duty and some of the Telltale games as well, and it's all up there on screen. So hopefully it all comes together and runs beautifully on our PlayStation 5s and our Xbox Series consoles and our souped up PCs, but I'm looking forward to that. We also got a hands-off demo of Armored Core 6. This looks gorgeous, and definitely it's taking advantage of all of the lessons that From has made from the Souls titles and from Elden Ring, but of course we're moving through this complex mechanical world in our mech suits with all kinds of incredible firepower and hover abilities and laser targeting. The only thing that I noticed with this game is that I don't know how it fits to scale with human beings. I don't know where the humans fit in to these robots. And that was something that I noticed when I saw the trailer originally. I don't really get the whole sense of scale. Like, they don't look like lumbering robots. They're very agile. It's almost like a souped up take on, of course, classic Armored Core games, but even going back to Sega's Virtual On, it just looks like an action game, but we are in robots. I definitely want to feel the scale, and hopefully that will be the case when we get the final version of the game. In terms of gameplay, though, lots of great enemy types, lots of cool puzzles to solve and boss fights to get into, and lots of big blow-ups, man, which is what you want out of a giant mech, and of course, all kinds of customization options. I also got my hands on Sonic Superstars. I didn't play any multiplayer with with it. But the gameplay is very fun, it's very fast, it's fluid, you can play as a bunch of different characters, and they each have new abilities as well. There was this one area where I jumped into a waterfall and I zipped up the waterfall, Zelda-like, Tears of the Kingdom-like. That was pretty rad. There's also jumping into the background and forward into the background. Lots of widgets and bumpers and all kinds of bouncy things that we would expect in a Sonic world. It's not pixelated, it's all 3D, so it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Donkey Kong Country games. But it's really, really fun to play. I can't wait to check that out with my family and play multiplayer. But I don't know how it's going to work with multiplayer because, of course, this is a game about speed and trying to zip from one end of the screen to the other as quickly as you can. So I don't know if that's going to drive anybody you might be playing cooperatively with a little bit crazy. But I did enjoy the experience playing solo, and it does an effective job, even though it's not using 16-bit visuals, to throw us back to the glory days of Sonic, which is great. I think Sonic in 2D is a fantastic fit. I also thought that the Disney Illusion Island game is a very cool idea. It's kind of like Baby's first Metroid. The developer is calling it a Mickeyvania, and I think that's a very cool concept. You obviously have to explore a massive map. There's all kinds of puzzles that you have to solve. It's not a combat experience. You jump on switches and things to knock out enemies and progress through the story. And what's cool is that they use mailboxes as checkpoints, and if your buddy gets hurt, they become a letter. And then when you pass the mailbox, they pop out of the mailbox as a letter and then transform into one of the different Disney characters that you get to play as. And it definitely does feel like you're playing a cartoon. So we'll see how that does. I feel like there's been a bit of a distance from us being able to play as Mickey Mouse and his buddies in video game form. So I don't know if the audience is massive for the experience, but I know that the developers at D-Lala really poured a lot of heart and soul into it. So hopefully it comes together really well. I'll have a review of that as soon as I get my hands on it for sure. I enjoyed checking out Remnant 2 as well, which is kind of like this merge of a Souls-like experience with something like The Division. So lots of cool projectile type weapons and this kind of destroyed beauty of an apocalypse that you have to survive, all kinds of infected creatures coming after you.
A lot of the inspiration comes from Dark Souls, obviously, but also from Resident Evil and just making a game that the players will explore really cool things, encounter really cool things, but most importantly, encounter really cool bosses and fights.
I think that could be a lot of fun, and I know that Remnant 1 has been incredibly successful. There's a lot of fans waiting to see where the sequel is going to take us. I did enjoy playing that game. Wasn't all AAA games here, though. There are some standout indies. Cocoon, I think, is probably the most beautiful of the indie titles that I saw here. It's a puzzle adventure experience where you're trying to activate switches and float in between these worlds. You have these orbs that you go back and forth into, and it's really, really lovely, the way that they set it all up. Beautiful music, beautiful atmosphere. It's incredibly hypnotic. I think Cocoon is going to be very special when it releases. I got my hands on Oxenfree 2, which is coming soon as well. A big, rich narrative adventure. Lots of incredible characters, voiced really well. New characters, different kind of experience from the first game, but of course there's connections and homages to what fans of Oxenfree 1 will have played.
What is going to blow their minds? I think what's going to blow their minds the most is two things. One is that...
Don't do it. Yeah, I know what he's going to say. No, I'm kidding. Spoilers.
The first game really only hinted at the rest of the location of Kamina. Like, you were very purposely restricted to only explore the island and Edward's Island and all the mysteries there. And they would only talk about their lives in town. In this game, you get to really explore what Kamina is like. You get to investigate all the nooks and crannies. So the cast really exploded. You get to meet and interact with. Using the other thing that I think is really exciting about the sequel is the walkie-talkie. It's just an opportunity for you to connect and communicate with a much huger cast than the first one.
And what's interesting about this game is that Netflix owns the developers, and so this is going to be a game you can download to your mobile devices if you have a Netflix account. But it's also coming to all the other consoles as well. So it's the first major release in the console sphere from Netflix. And who knows if this is going to lead to more of that. It might just do that. Overall, Summer Game Fest 2023 has been really great. It's nice to see Jeff and his team kind of grow the concept, invite more people, bring more developers. It was awesome to see Nick Cage up on stage. I'm super excited about that new Prince of Persia game. I can't wait to play Final Fantasy VII Reborn next year. There's been a lot of cool reveals and a lot of great games to get our hands on. And even though this year already has been one for the record books in terms of releases we've seen up to this point, we have a lot of fun stuff to look forward to. And I'll be right here. I'll be interviewing people and reviewing all of these things as they come out. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon. And until then, play forever.